Now, the African Development Bank's annual meetings are currently underway in Arusha, Tanzania, where business and government leaders from across the continent are trying to find solutions to improve Africa's economy. Godfrey Mutizwa caught up with the bank's Regional Director of Integration and Aid for Trade, Alex Rugamba, and asked him what is being done to enhance regional economic integration in Africa.
The bank itself, when it was created in 1964, was created precisely to support African countries in their economic integration. So over the years, the bank has been very actively involved in this area, and very specifically, it's in two ways. On the one hand, supporting regional integration through the financing of regional infrastructure projects, which link countries to ports, landlocked countries to the ports, and between the countries themselves.
Yeah.
Energy projects, ICT projects, water projects. So that is on the hard infrastructure side. But the bank also supports the regional economic communities and the Africa Union in basically trying to resolve some of the non-physical aspects of integration. That means resolving some of the bottlenecks to trade and to movement, to the free movement of goods and people.
Okay, so given the two figures that I've mentioned, the fact that one, the regional intra-trade in Africa is less than 10%, and the fact that when the bank was created, its original intention was to make sure that there was regional integration. The question I want to ask you is, are those plans working? Are the strategies that the bank is pursuing working?
Well, they are, and by the way, the figure of 10% is debatable.
I was hoping you'd give me a correct figure.
Because there's a lot of informal trade, for example, that is not included in that 10%. So we think it's higher than 10.
What's your number?
Well, statistics on informal trade is very difficult to capture, but I would say that the Africa Union has now a plan in place to build infrastructure called the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, over the next 30 years. At the same time, there's also a plan to build a continental free trade area and to boost intra-Africa trade to at least 25%. So the 10% you're talking about now, there is a target now.
What is the target?
The target is about 25% by 2017.
Very grand plans, because we know that the numbers that people are talking about, at least in trying to put together some of those plans that need to make regional integration work, such as, for instance, infrastructure. I mean, we're talking about huge deficits. $93 billion is one figure I've heard mentioned by other people. Where is the money coming from? How much are you guys putting in?
Well, I must say that, first of all, the African Development Bank is only one of several players in terms of financing. We work very closely with our colleagues and associates from the World Bank, the European Investment Bank, the European Commission, a number of bilateral donors, the DBSA, but our own contribution would be in the region of about, over a 3-year period, about $1.5 billion dedicated to regional infrastructure.
$1.5 billion.
Over a 3-year period dedicated to regional infrastructure, but much more if you include national infrastructure as well.
Right. Is it enough?
Well, is it enough? Certainly not, but I think the sources are getting diverse. Let's not forget also the African countries themselves are also making significant contributions into financing infrastructure. So the deficit, I think, will be gradually narrowed, but it still exists.
Alex, we know also that African countries themselves are also part of the problem, because they do put in place impediments instead of helping the process. For instance, some would argue that they put in place policies that hinder investment by the private sector in trying to improve infrastructure projects. What, from the bank's perspective, are key issues that need to be addressed by governments?
Well, first of all, I'm sure you're alluding to the possibility of attracting private money, sector involvement or foreign direct investment. I think what most investors are looking for is a clear policy framework. They are looking for clear contractual arrangements, and these are areas where obviously the governments are best placed to put the right enabling environment.
Are you telling them, the governments?
Well, the governments are very conscious of this. We do it as part of our normal dialogue with them, but I don't think we need to basically tell them. They are very conscious, and many countries are doing this. They are improving their investment climate. And as you have seen, there are some countries that have even been able to issue infrastructure bonds, for example. Kenya is a good example.
Yes.
And others, Ghana, Gabon. We have a number of countries in Africa which are creating the necessary conditions for infrastructure development, including developing domestic resource mobilization.